This video is sponsored by Enotria, The Last Song. Speaking as someone who likes his fair share of Souls-like games, I think there are a lot of very understandable reasons why someone might not like them. I think the often high difficulty bar and intentionally obtuse mechanics are enough to turn away a lot of people, understandably so. But the one obstacle that's frequently the biggest for me when trying to get into a new Souls-like is the way that a lot of games discourage players from experimenting with their builds. On paper, I get why this is. Games in that genre tend to be really challenging and put a lot of agency in the hands of the player when it comes to creating a build, so they're not going to hold your hand as you level your character up. However, because upgrade materials and skill points and even stat upgrades are so tough to get in a lot of these types of games, I frequently feel like I'm being discouraged from trying new things out. Luckily, the upcoming Souls-like Enotria, The Last Song seems like it's aiming to counter that problem. Aside from its setting, I think the mask system is the most unique part of Enotria. How it works is you have 3 different masks that you can switch between at any given time, and each mask has its own build that you customize and tinker with. When you switch to a mask, you automatically switch to all of the stats associated with it, meaning that you can create builds for specific encounters and switch to them as you, encounter them. On top of that, each mask has its own gimmick that you can lean into to create even more specific, powerful builds. For example, one mask might let you deal more damage when using charged attacks with greatswords, things like that. So there's plenty of incentive to try out as many masks as possible and make specific builds. The full game isn't out yet, so I can't speak specifically about how this all works in practice across the entire experience. But from what I played in the Steam demo, as well as some additional hands-on time with Enotria at Summer Game Fest, I think the mechanic works really well. It did take me some time to get used to, but as soon as I got the timing down for it, I was able to switch masks out mid-combat to make full use of all the build options I had. The best part about switching builds out like that is that you assign different weapons to the different masks, meaning that you can have fully kitted out, drastically different builds at the ready for whenever you need them. With 3 masks at your disposal and 2 weapon slots each, it means that you have 6 weapons ready to go basically whenever you need them. Like I said, I don't know how this is going to feel across the entire game, but to me, it feels pretty good so far and addresses that big issue of not feeling like I'm able to experiment in most Souls-likes, since I can have a reliable build that works for me in most scenarios, while also having access to a build that I'm working on ironing all the kinks out of. If that build I'm working on doesn't work, it's not a huge deal since I've got 2 full other mask slots to lean on. From what it seems like based on the demo and everything else I've played, upgrade materials are a lot less rare in Enotria than in other Souls-likes, to compensate for the fact that players will have 6 weapons they'll have equipped at any given time, which will also help squash that feeling of being discouraged from experimenting. Again, I can't say how that's going to be balanced across the entire game, but in talking with the devs at SGF, they seem to be really leaning into the experimentation options that come hand in hand with the masks. So it seems like there's a lot of care being put into that'll be seen in the final release. So that's where I'm at with Enotria. It seems like it's going to be one of the more high-profile Souls-like releases of the year behind Shadow of the Erdtree, the Elden Ring DLC, which is also leaning into allowing players to work on customizing their builds and experimenting a little bit more. Who knows, maybe that's the big mechanic that Souls-like games are going to be working on fixing in the coming years. I certainly think that's a really solid move just because it's fun to try new things and experience new ways of playing these types of games. Let me know what you think of Enotria's demo if you've played it, or about experimentation options in Souls-likes in the comments down below. I've been Peter. Thank you so much for sticking with DualShockers.